There we go.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Rocky Mountain House regular council meeting for July 19th, 2022. And I'd like to call the meeting to order. Moving forward, 2.1 to adopt the agenda for July 19th, 2022 regular council meeting. Do we have any additions or changes for this agenda today? Seeing none, I'd like to have a motion. Councillor Caprero.
I'll make that motion to adopt the agenda for July 19th, 2022.
Thank you very much. All in favor? And that's carried. So I'm pleased to welcome Kayla Law from Fortis, Alberta today for our first delegation 3.1.
Thank you. Thank you to allowing us, well, Fortis, Alberta, I say us because it's all of us, to present today. I understand that you guys all have a spreadsheet for you to compare some information about neighboring communities. But before I get into that, I'll just give you a little bit of background on Fortis and specifically on Rocky Mountain and the services we provide. So Fortis, Alberta, I should say, has 500,000 customers within our service area, 163 franchise agreements, and over 1,100 employees with 300 contractors. We do have a local office in Rocky Mountain House, and our linemen live and work here. I am your stakeholder relations manager. I've been with the company for about 11 years, and I cover all of Central Alberta. So I'm excited to be here. Before I get into this document, there is a correction. Rocky Mountain House population should be 6,700, not 6,300 with some old data. So I apologize for that. Currently, Rocky has a franchise. Also, I should say, if you have questions for me, feel free to interrupt me or I'll answer them at the end as well. So Rocky has a franchise fee about 12%, which equates to about $615,000 in 2021. Which is a flow through charge that goes right back to the municipality. They have a linear tax, or you have a linear tax of 1.3%, which in 2021 was about $80,000. There is about 3,700 sites in Rocky Mountain House that we serve, which equates to about 55 million kilowatt hours. And there are about 869 streetlights. That might be a little bit higher now because that was 2021 data. To give you a little bit of background on the franchise agreement, it's a 20-year agreement and we're up to the 10 years. Like I said, there are 163 franchise agreements in Fortis, Alberta area. And 160 of them are on the 2012 template agreement, which was approved by Alberta municipalities, formerly the Alberta Urban Municipal Association, AUMA, ATCO, and Fortis, Alberta. Within those 160 agreements, there are 135 that have franchise fees attached to it. The franchise agreement holds mutual benefits for quite a number of things, but I'll highlight the ones that are usually relevant to municipalities high level. So it creates long-term partnership, a source of revenue through franchise fees and linear tax, service level commitments, so streetlight penalties. If we don't if we don't repair them in time, we pay out a penalty. Exclusivity, so one point of contact gives us exclusivity in the area to own and operate the system, and you guys a point of contact. So safety is our number one concern. And so that helps, and reliability. So the next steps for the franchise renewal agreement of the 20-year agreement is the next 5 years. What we're looking for is a sign off for that. There's no bylaw required to be signed, just a signature from mayor or CEO. And then I will just dive in. Do you want me to go through this document? Okay. I'm getting yes.
I think
Um,
there's actually quite a few members that are new to council and it wouldn't hurt to go through it. Thank you.
absolutely. So with CAO Kraus asked me to compare some municipalities to Fortis, Alberta. And the ones that don't have any information is ATCO territory. So we were able to get certain information, but not all of it. So just a heads up on that. And this is 2021 information for the most part, so it might change slightly. So in comparison for population around 6,700, you've got a net. Do you want me to go through each line item? Or
If you want to just tell us maybe the generalities of what's in the
sure.
spreadsheet and where those numbers come from and what they
Yeah,
mean.
so this spreadsheet consists of population. So the neighboring municipalities, everywhere from Blackfalds to Bakerville to Westlock, and all in between. In addition to that, it shows the franchise fee of what they're currently collecting. Now, the cap of the franchise fee is set at 20%, so it cannot exceed that unless the franchise fee cap gets changed, but we haven't seen that happen. In comparison to that, you've got them ranging from 0% to 20% and collecting anywhere from 0 to over $1.4 million in franchise fees. Historical consumption varies based on the sites, but in comparison to Rocky with about 4,000 sites, you're looking at Coaldale, which has 4,000 sites, and their franchise fee is set at 13%. Yours is at 12%, and you're collecting about $100,000 more than them, and that's due to the size of sites and consumption. Looking further, there is Morinville, which has a 20%, which is the cap, and has about 4,300 sites, is collecting just over $1 million. Now, we can always, within the franchise fee changes, which come in September, we can do comparisons then to see where you'd like to fall. Look at the calculator, go through that. I actually used to build the calculators, so I'm pretty familiar on that side of things. But yeah, you're sitting right in the middle of a lot of these municipalities, depending on where they choose to set their fee, and that can be changed at any time during the year. So
How you came up with the list of communities, was that based on the site count?
no, it was a list from CAO.
Okay,
Gross.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Councillor Phillips?
I do have a question. So I know our 12% franchise fee, I don't think has changed since 2015, if I'm correct. Yeah. So I know we definitely haven't changed that amount for a number of years. But one question I had is for the streetlights in town.
Mhm.
I know we've gone to the LED streetlights, and I believe they're capable of being able to be kind of turned off and then activated as cars drive down the road. Is that something that these lights are capable of?
I'd have to check with operations. It might be something that they have to add to the light.
Okay.
But I can take that away and get back to you.
Yeah, I have seen it.
Yeah, I know
Uh,
it's capable. I
it's
don't know
yeah.
if these lights are capable because they were retrofitted.
Mhm.
But they could be. I don't know the background on.
It would
on
be
the
an
cast.
interesting thing to see what cost it would be and what kind of cost savings it would create, because then all your lights aren't on all night long. They're only the lights that the cars
Right.
actually
Yeah.
driving down the street, the lights turn on in front of them.
Yeah, I can absolutely
Okay.
look into it.
Thank you.
Has there been much of a cost savings? Like, when was the time that we changed all the lights? Like they,
So I believe it would have been around 2017. I'd have to
Okay.
double check the date on that because we had a number of municipalities go through the retrofit. But yeah, so the savings in dollars and consumption is there, but of course the distribution and transmission and other rates have gone up. But the cost savings and consumption is there.
Okay. And then when consumers that live in our community get their bill, where does this show what they pay? It says distribution fee to Rocky Mountain House, right?
For the franchise fee,
Yeah. What does it read on their bills?
It could say municipal rider, it could say, it depends on their retailer.
Okay.
It could say franchise fee.
Okay.
It depends on the retailer on what line item it
Okay.
is, but if you show me your bill or show me any bill, I can tell you what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wondered if it was
Yeah.
like a standard thing, like.
Yeah, it changes
Mine-
slightly, but
Yeah.
go ahead.
Mine is from the main distributor or whatever they call it, like
The-
each community will have a,
Oh, like the regulated rate.
like, mine's the green bill.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
Or the pink bill, because that's who's you automatically get hooked up with
Oh,
in Rocky
okay.
Mountain House.
Okay, I see.
I know,
Yeah. There's so many retailers.
yeah, that's
so-
right.
Yeah.
At work, when we have lots of tenants. Yeah, different work. Anyway, so yeah, so I just wanted that consumers can know that
Yeah.
they know where this 12% came from and where it shows up on their utility bills. Do you see much of a discounting coming up with some of the like fees? You know what's happening with the government?
Oh, the rebates.
Yeah,
So that's again through your retailer, and through the government. So it's really not to do with Fortis. It's to offset. It's supposed to be coming in August from what I see. But I can't answer how long that'll be or how it'll come from your retailer. So
Okay.
it will be on your bill, but it won't be from Fortis.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Did anyone else have any questions? When you go to the website and you look up Fortis Alberta, the rates that say January 1st, 2022, is that like, would that be the most accurate?
Yeah. Yes.
And then does that get updated just once a year at January for?
I believe it gets updated quarterly, kind of thing, depending on what different riders and stuff are being updated, because it'll say like, this is the January book updated April 1st, 2022 kind of thing.
Okay, the one I could find was January 1st, 2022.
Yeah,
so-
and then when you open it at the top right-hand corner, it'll say the date that it was actually updated. So if there were any changes during the year,
Yeah,
it would reflect there. So
okay, yeah,
yeah.
because like some of the communities that are closest to us are not on Mr. Krause's original list.
right.
And so I wanted to look up like what our closest neighbors were doing for their rider fees.
And if you'd
So that
like,
we had a comparison. I got it.
okay, fair enough. Oh,
Yeah.
yes, yeah, the whole list. Is
Yeah.
there for sure, yes. But if you wanted the actuals on like the amount,
Uh-huh.
I can get stuff like that for you, just like I did here.
Oh, okay,
Just give me the list of,
okay. I will send you this.
we can do it offline.
We,
Yeah.
we'll do it offline. I'll send you an
Yeah.
email and then I can share it with the whole council. Thank you so
No
much.
problem.
Well, seeing no other questions, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming and seeing us today and going over the rider fees spreadsheet.
No problem.
And did you have anything else you wanted to add before I let you go?
Just, I don't know if you were planning on doing it here or the next meeting, I don't know if you vote on whether or not to pass the renewal, or if we'll,
I'll let Mr. Kraus
Yeah,
answer
no,
that.
so we'll
Yeah.
be bringing that to council in August.
okay, perfect.
Well, thank you so much for coming today and you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting or you're welcome to leave and have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
So moving forward in the agenda, the next, we have a second delegation today. 3.2, we have a delegation from Roar and we have Lindsay Rush and Barb Bison. And Barb is the president and Lindsay is the vice president of Roar in Rocky Mountain House. And welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'll just have you step to the seat to the microphones. And then remember to press the big middle button to turn it on. Thank you and welcome.
Good afternoon. My name, like she said, is Lindsay Rutch, and I'm the Vice President of the Roar Society. I'm here today to urge you to revisit your budget for the Roar Society and animal welfare in Rocky Mountain House. I urge you because even if you toss it aside, cast a blind eye, or say it's not a problem, like it's been told in years past, I assure you that it definitely is. We've seen it firsthand, and we invite you all to come by the Roar Society and see it for yourself. Let's start with some facts. One female cat can have her first heat as young as 4 months old. A cat gestation is about 63 days. An average litter size for a mama cat is 4 kittens. I've seen as many as 12. And finally, a cat doesn't actually need to be in heat to get pregnant. Now let's do some quick math. Say one female can have 4 litters a year with 4 kittens in a litter. That one female cat is responsible for producing 16 cats in a year. Now imagine if 8 of those are female and left unspayed. If they were born in March, which is the beginning of kitten season, it's still possible for her to have at least 2 more litters that year. 4 kittens per litter, 8 female cats are responsible for 64 kittens. Now imagine if 32 of those are female. Do you see where I'm going with this? So spoiler alert, we're up to 512 kittens. Next number, 4,096 kittens. Now you ask, why am I giving you this information? Because it's the reality of the cat situation in Rocky. If we let these cats wander the streets, it's not only an issue of a cat pooping in your strawberries or having a cat fight under your window at 2 a.m., waking up your newborn, your grandchildren. It's not an issue of cats just being a nuisance. Feral cats can be dangerous. They can have infections and zoonotic diseases that can harm your cats, your dogs, or even humans. We're talking worms, parasites, viruses, fungi. They can scratch, they can bite, they can hurt people. And trust me, I've got the scars of cat scratch fever to prove it. It is reckless for us to turn a blind eye and say it's not a problem. It's reckless to keep them on the streets. Now, we've said before that maybe this is a bylaw issue. I don't think it's a bylaw issue. I think it's a town issue, one that Roar is terribly bogged down by, just as much as the bylaw officers who are out there, while they have much more pressing things to do, they're out there chasing cats. So in the past year, 47 of our cats came in because they were trapped or found by town residents. 55 more cats were brought in by bylaw officers, and 29 of those 55 cats were unclaimed. Lori and Morgan, our 2 staff at the shelter, average about a dozen phone calls a week on their personal phone lines at all hours of the day and night regarding stray cats in town. I'm not even listed on anything Roar, and I've had 3 calls this week from people I don't even know. And they've asked about a trapped cat, a wild tom, and a lone kitten they found in an abandoned house. Now, of all the animals that do come in, more than half are female and 90% were not fixed. So right now we're getting $1,250 a month from the town, and that's amazing. We're grateful for it. It helps a lot. But if you do the math, those 47 cats that came in, and we're not including the 29 that bylaw brought in, cost us, and we're rounding here, cost us $11,750. That's just in routine vet bills. So that means spay or neuter and their shots to keep them healthy. What we're not including are the 6 hours per day someone has to be in the shelter because of labor laws of 3-hour shifts for 14 days of quarantine at minimum wage. For one cat, that's $1,260. Now it's easy to say, hey, if 12 cats are in there, it's fine. But that's not the case. They don't all come in at once. There were at least 9 2-week stints last year that we had cats. At $1,260 for each 2 weeks, that total is $11,340 in labor. And that still doesn't include food or the water for the building, heat, or the mortgage. It also doesn't account for the fact that the average time that these cats are in there now, because adoptions are low, is 4 months. It also doesn't include the big vet expenses and the big losses from it. We had 3 amputations. We'll say the average for the vet care for an amputation is about $500, and that's low. But let's not forget, animals like that don't stay in the building for 2 weeks. They're in there for months healing at $1,260 a 2-week stint. So a few months ago, a man called Roar and said he had a mama cat and 6 kittens that he found and needed to get rid of. Could we take them? We were already full. He came and unceremoniously dumped this mama and her kittens on our doorstep and ran. That same day, a woman dropped off another mama and litter of kittens, not even old enough to have their eyes open. When we told her we could not take them, she shoved the box across the floor and said that the town says we do need to take them. She slammed the door and left. We didn't know the history of these cats, except for what the people told us. These aren't our cats, they said. So we brought them in and we put them into quarantine. Do any of you have cats? Okay, so do you know what Pan-Luke is? Does anybody have dogs? Do you know what parvo is? Okay, so long story short, Pan-Luke is feline distemper, but it shows the same way that parvo does in puppies. So first, you don't know a cat is a carrier until it's showing symptoms. And by that time, it's too late. Everyone is infected. It's a really nasty virus that's incredibly contagious, incredibly resistant to disinfectants and the weather. So no, Alberta winter isn't going to kill it. And it can sit dormant on any kind of surface for up to a year. We're talking about your sidewalk that you walked to your car before you got to this meeting. Now it's on your shoes, it's in this room, and it's going to be in your house where your sweet little kitty is waiting. The virus attacks and destroys white blood cells. In turn, the cat suffers from fever, depression, lack of appetite, dehydration, and lethargy. And that's before the vomiting and diarrhea start, which is what she'll finally succumb to. It's not a pretty way to die. But that's how we lost 6 kittens in the past 3 months, thanks to a stray cat that was dumped on our doorstep because the town said we had to take it. To treat Pan-Luke, treatment is supportive therapy. It's antibiotics, IV fluids, nausea medication, and sometimes blood transfusions. These need to be done at the vet in a special isolation room so nobody else gets infected. The cost of the treatment can be in the thousands. And we've had 6 in the past 3 months. With 2 kittens, we finally have 2 kittens are clearing of it, but 2 have been neurologically disabled. They have tremors and 1 can't walk anymore because of the treatment needed. Furthermore, with Pan-Luke, the sheer amount of extra hours that our shelter manager spent bleaching the entire shelter twice a day to kill the virus is not only mentally taxing on her, but it's extra hundreds of dollars on our massive labor bills as it is. We won't even discuss the emotional turmoil our staff goes through when they have to treat and care and ultimately lose the animals to a disease they had no choice in bringing into the quarantine room. So that's a lot of cats that the Roar Society is caring for, cleaning up after, paying for, and in the end, burying for a loss of profit. So I'm not sure if anyone's keeping count of the totals here, but $11,750 for vet costs, $11,340 in labor, $1,500 for amputations, $3,000 plus for Pan-Luke, $2,100 in lost adoption fees. That's a total of $29,690 because of town cats. And from the town, we received $15,000. If we were to include the 29 cats that bylaw brought on, tack on another 10,000. That's $39,690. That's what the Roar Society, a small nonprofit, spent this year on something we've been told by the town isn't a problem, and I beg to differ. This also doesn't account for the dogs brought in by bylaw. We've had cases that included an amputee, a gunshot wound, an abused puppy with severe mange, and a litter of malnourished puppies. This doesn't account for the 80+ cats and dogs that are surrendered to us or that we rescue from terrible situations throughout the year. To be a rescue, it's important to advocate for better animal welfare, to help those that don't have the means to help their pets, and to rescue animals in need. Many of these things are happening in the borders of this town, and we can't do as much as we would love to do for the citizens of Rocky and their animals because we don't have the financial support to do it. We would love to offer a spay and neuter incentive to town residents. I realize we have one, but it's not advertised. It's hardly implemented, and we'd like to be able to do something about that. With the financial help of the county in the spring, they gave us $2,000 and donors matched it, right?
Yeah.
We were able to spay and neuter 60 cats. That means 500 less kittens in the county next year. So that's pretty amazing. We would like to start a TNR initiative in town to help with the stray cat problem. TNR initiatives work, and a prime example would be Blackfalds. Do you know what TNR? TNR is trap, neuter, and release. And what it really is you partner with the town, the rescue and the vets in town. You go to the areas that are the most populated by the stray cats. What we found is the industrial areas right now. And you put out traps, and volunteers, they bait those traps, and slowly but surely you start catching them. You spay or neuter them, you get them the shots they need, and then you let them go. So you might have a stray cat on the street, but there are no more kittens. And as the years go by, the numbers get lower and lower and lower. This is what Blackfalds did, and now they don't have a problem. It's manageable. And at this point, our problem isn't manageable, but it can be. So. And then we would also like to help the elderly with food and vet supplies and support for their pets, teaching them how to give them their pills or their shots if needed. We would love to help residents who can't afford to help their animal this month. We get calls every day from people who can't afford food, can't afford the vet bills. So I won't even get into that. And we would love to be able to help them, but we can't. We can't just keep asking for money from the residents of this town, especially when the town we love isn't helping us help them. This is a major town issue, and if we collectively want to make a change, we need to make a change. Our little rescue is obviously relied on much in this town, and we are stretched thin. So we need your help to remedy this town problem. Any questions?
Thank you very much for your presentation. I'm just looking around, Counselor Phillips and then Counselor Fraser.
So I know we do have a spay neuter program.
Yeah.
right? And we're well aware that the uptake is not high in that program.
Right.
So that, that's not news to us.
Yeah.
It's there, but people aren't using it. And to me, it sounds like this isn't a responsible pet owner problem. It's
Right.
It's the strays that
Yeah.
are the problem. So do you have any numbers on a TNR program and what that
I can get
entails
them
and
for you.
costs?
I have asked, like, especially the Blackfalds program,
Yeah.
I've talked a lot with Jim from Paws and Claws, who actually was the one who implemented it.
Mhm.
And he's gonna send me the email on all the numbers, and I can send that out to you.
Yeah, I'd be
you'd like.
interested to see
Yeah,
how much that would cost. I know
yeah,
cats was a large topic of the last 2 budget meetings we've had,
yeah,
just for the sheer cost of it,
right.
of what it costs the taxpayers to deal
And
with.
I think the biggest thing is we can say, oh, it costs too much, but that's not gonna stop the cats from doing what they're
Yeah.
doing, right?
Yeah.
And so we can wait until it's a major problem, or we can start taking care of it now. And like a TNR initiative, it doesn't take one summer. And it can be done slowly but surely it starts to work, right? So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was
Counselor
just gonna
Fraser.
say, I'm excited to see the TNR show up. I know I've been kind of flogging that for a few years now.
Yeah,
Because I agree, it's crazy expensive for what you need to do with all the cats, but
yeah,
there does need to be we have to stop that pipeline of kittens. And so I like
Exactly.
that it's that you're looking at kind of long-term to get it under control. And eventually, when you get that population down, I know it works really well in Edmonton. I've seen.
yeah,
I don't think I've seen a stray cat in Edmonton
Right?
for years. So it works really well and it's expensive upfront, but I think that
in the long run, it'll save money everywhere, right? So,
So I'm glad to see that. So thank you.
Just checking, when you have these, like, I'm just a little bit not clear on your numbers. Did you say you have 42 to make a total of 55, or did you have 42 plus 29?
we have 47 plus 29. We're the ones, 47 were brought in by the town. And a lot of people will message us and say, oh, we called bylaw and they didn't come get it. So they bring it in themselves. I'm not going to say bylaw didn't answer the phone because, bylaw's busy doing their own thing. They don't need to be chasing cats around. So but those are the ones that were calls that we got that said, we found or trapped these cats. Can you take them?
And that's your year-to-date number?
That
or that's your
that was actually the year, that was the, what year are we in, 2022? So June 2021 to June 2022.
So
Yeah.
that's a year.
Yeah, that was a year.
That's a year of
Yeah.
numbers.
Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. And so do you not neuter and spay before you release them now? When they're adopted out or no?
It depends. There are a lot of studies that say if you neuter or spay a cat before they're 6 months old, it's bad for their health. It can make them have urinary issues, all sorts of things. So, and a lot of vets won't neuter or spay before they're 6 months or 2 kilograms. We can take them to Red Deer where there are pediatric vets who will do it. So we will, if they are under the 6 months, we will put them out as an unneutered or unspayed, but we make the appointment for them. We make sure they go, and we've been almost 100% on that.
It's also
So-
included in the cost of the spay or neuter.
Yeah.
Is included in the adoption fee.
Yeah.
And that is part of their contract when they sign to adopt, that they have to bring that cat, the kitten back to be spayed or neutered.
Oh, okay, so I'm
Yeah.
just wondering what the difference then is between your program and a trap neuter release program would be.
The trap neuter release is, we wouldn't be adopting them out. We'd be putting them back out on the street, but they can no longer procreate. So that means, so if one mama cat is spayed, put back on the street, she might be out there, but she's only out there for 10 years, say, if she was living her whole life. She's not making 64, then 500, then 6,400 kittens per year. There's only one of her, right? So she might still be on the street, but no kittens will be coming out of her. And the cat population, it might be big in the beginning, but it slowly goes down because no kittens are being made. So
And so why are, the reason that you don't spay or neuter all the cats that come through your rescue center is because of the age
The
or
age.
because of the
Age.
finances?
no, because of the age.
Because of the
Yes,
age.
yeah, because of
The
the age. Now, with that being said, like I said, most cats, they're sitting in there for 4 or 5 months. So I'm not sure we've had one in the past year that's been under 6 months. So all of them are spayed or neutered before they
Okay.
go out.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, and then, so right now we give, the town of Rocky Mountain House generously gives $15,000 to the program.
yeah,
And then what are your costs for your year to year? Like from June till now, what was your total costs for the Roar Society shelter then?
do you know that number?
No, I don't know that number offhand.
Yeah,
Wow.
you threw a lot of numbers at me.
Yeah,
I was trying to
yeah.
put it in
So, okay,
context
I
of
will
what
tell
the
you
total.
for just these town cats, and this isn't including any of the surrenders we get from other people, like their loved animals that are coming in, whatever.
Okay,
It's about $39,690.
and that is because you're feeding them, you're
We're
treating
feeding
them for
We're doing the
disease.
vet, yeah,
You're
Mhm.
spading and neutering them.
Yeah,
And then
right.
you're housing them
and we're helping them. yeah.
until they are adopted.
adopted. Yeah,
Okay, and this might sound a bit naive, but there's no euthanization
no,
at the shelter.
the only euthanization we do is if they are so sick. Like, for instance, we talked about the 2 that have the neurological disorders now or problems. Their quality of life will never be good.
Okay.
Our girl at the shelter is trying to get them back up to par, but there's a good chance they'll have to be put down because, yeah, they won't have a good life. So, so the only things we do euthanize are when health wise, they're just too far gone or too infectious and there's no way to cure them. But
Right.
other than that, and that's about it for
Yeah,
And
euthanization.
you think the trap neuter release program is better because it's not gonna cost to house the cats and readopt them out?
that's right.
And because our shelter is only so big, we can only hold so many cats. And a few years ago, we had a shelter manager who she was on a mission to save them all, right?
Yeah,
And we had up to 90 cats in the shelter.
uh-huh,
90 cats is like putting all of us into a closet when one of us has COVID, right?
Okay.
We're all gonna get it. So we only have enough room for about 40 cats.
okay, and so then
And
what
comfortably.
happens when you reach your threshold, don't accept them?
We say we can't
Right.
accept them and we have a wait list. Right now, we have about 24 cats in litters on a wait list and they're
And-
waiting for a cage to open up. And we have 2 cages in our quarantine that are by law quarantine cages. So if a bylaw officer comes in, they have a place to put it.
Oh,
so-
okay,
And it's the same with dogs. We have a run for bylaw dogs. So,
okay,
And we've also got one of our dog cages that we use for dogs, for housing dogs that are brought in. is currently being used for cats. It's got cat cages in it because we have no place to put them.
So, and on the same topic, if we need to encourage any pet owner to have their cat spayed or neutered.
Yeah,
Right.
Because of this huge problem, even if they have a boy cat. it's-
yeah, yeah.
It's making
Oh,
friends with the
absolutely.
neighbor
And that's
cat.
the other thing is a mama cat
Okay.
can get pregnant by 4 different dads in one litter.
Okay.
So if there are all these male cats, yeah, they can all impregnate her. So yes, for all these male cats, yeah, they can all impregnate her. So yes, neutering is just as important as spaying. So
Counselor All, did you have a question?
Shane's first.
Oh, sorry, Shane.
Like, I love kitties, I have 3, but growing up on a farm, I'm also practical.
yeah,
Mhm.
So listening to you talk, you have animals you're bringing in from people either dropping off or however they're getting to you that have diseases that are requiring surgeries for amputations and these kind of things. I'm sorry, but my practical mind says if you want to save money, you can only save so many. And now it's time to start euthanizing animals that are not healthy from the start. And move on to animals that can be saved with the money you have. I've had to put my own animals down due to disease or any, age and that kind of thing. It's a hard decision to make. But it's also a necessity of life. And you mentioned the quality of life for some of these animals. I've had a farm cat that got his back leg caught in a hay bind and lost it. It managed just fine, but we were on a farm and we had milk and she was well looked after.
Yeah.
But not everybody comes into your shelter wanting a 3-legged cat.
And that's exactly it. I myself have a 3-legged cat.
so do I.
I'm a rehabilitator.
Yeah.
I got her in before she was feral to start. And I got her in when she had been hit by a car and was in terrible condition. And wanted to see whether or not we could domesticate her enough to be adopted. Otherwise, she would have had to been put down. And we were lucky that she was domesticated enough, had the amputation, which cost $2,500 to get the leg and the shoulder amputated. And she is now part of my family and does extremely well. But you're right, they want four legs and they want one that's in good condition. They don't want one that's got mental problems or anything else like that, so.
No, and like you guys do wonderful work, but there comes to a point where
Mhm,
there's only so much money to go around and where do you spread the money?
No,
that's right.
I'm a farm kid too. I know exactly, like my husband's like, shoot them all, right? So I get what you're saying. And the big issue with it is, we're not out on the farm. We're with people and we see it every day. People who have their dogs in a stroller, we're talking about a different breed of people.
Yes.
And if you look at rescues in Canada, you will not find a kill shelter anywhere. You don't do it. And if we started euthanizing, the backlash from that would be,
Do you think you would have a backlash for a diseased and injured?
well,
animal?
and you know what? And
I'm
that's
not talking about
totally
healthy
different.
animals. I'm talking
Yeah,
about animals.
yeah.
that You're spending $2,500, $4,000 to do amputations.
Yeah.
And put up for 6 months while they rehabilitate.
I think a big part of it is like, especially the amputees, they can end up living a fantastic life. But
Absolutely.
it's like the ones with the neurological issues,
They
in
can't-
my opinion, they should be put down for
they
sure.
can't.
The Pan-Luc ones, and you know what? We've had to put down some of the Pan-Luc ones because we knew there was no way and it was gonna cost way too much money. We've had a lot of those come through that we have dealt with. So
Mhm.
and I wish I had the numbers of how many we've had to put down because of that issue. So most of the ones that are in there now are completely healthy. And another thing, like a lot of the feral cats that we have, we will we'll spay or neuter them and then give them as barn buddies. So people just donate and maybe $50. We'll just spay a cat as $170, $150. And that's just to spay it. That's not all the shots and the deworming and the microchip. So we're losing money straight off the bat with that. Another thing we'll do with feral cats is we will try and in foster domesticate them. That's how I got cat scratch fever. But I domesticated it. So she's a happy cat now. And that's a little different because they're not in shelter, right? These are the ones that have been in shelter and not cases like the super feral ones or anything like that. So.
Thank
And
you
what
very
we
much.
would like to do, one of the goals is if we get a feral cat in, it comes in straight to the vet, gets spayed or neutered, and then it's gone.
Yeah.
It's either back out on the street or it goes as a barn buddy
Okay,
to a
So-
farm.
we have a busy agenda,
Yeah,
so I'm gonna
sorry.
move to Counselor Ald.
I'm just curious whether or not, this is all good discussion, but the other smaller municipalities, Innisfil, the rural municipalities, they have the same type of program as the Roar Society.
For the most part, the one we've looked into recently is Pinoka. They have about 7,700 citizens, residents. Old McDonald, kennels are the one who take care of theirs. And they charge $70 an hour for 34.5 hours a month. So it works out to about $2,400 a month. And they do pretty much the same thing we do. So
So just one other local one that you know of.
that's the main, I know other ones like Sylvan Lake has more population, but theirs, I believe, is around a $50,000 yearly budget. Innisfail, I'm not 100% sure on, but those are the ones I know of. So
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. So we do have a busy
Sorry.
agenda. No,
That's
no, you're, that's fantastic. Everyone had lots of questions. So I just like to once again, thank you very much for coming and presenting to the town of Rocky Mountain House and for your presentation. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the council meeting or you're free to leave. So
Okay.
have a great afternoon and thank you again.
thank you so much.
So moving forward in the agenda, we're at 4.1 to adopt the adoption of previous minutes. I'm looking to Tina because she always finds something fantastically. Nothing today, Tina?
I didn't find anything today on that one, so if there's,
Go ahead, make the motion.
I'll
Yeah.
make the motion to adopt the, excuse me, the minutes from July 5th meeting.
And all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So 5.1 delegation of Fortis Alberta. Did we have any business discussion? I would like to ask if in August, we're going to be reviewing the franchise fee for our community. Will that be a specific topic item or do I have to make that motion now?
No, so your worship, so in August, we'll bring back the Fortis franchise agreement for council's consideration for renewal for 5 years. The franchise fees would be coming to council in September. Fortis will supply us with the information, but they haven't supplied us with that information as of yet.
Okay.
So that'd be September or early October.
Okay. So for 5.1, we'll do a motion for information for Fortis Alberta. Councillor Phillips.
I'll make a motion to accept item 5.1 as information.
Thank you very much. All in favor? And that's carried. So item 5.2, the delegation from Roar. Did we have any further discussion that we wanted to do on that item? Councillor Ald?
I don't think, well, we have to send it to a service level review anyway. They've got lots of information, lots of heartache, but I don't think we can make a decision on doing anything until service level review. I would make the motion that we accept it for information if there's no discussion.
I just had one quick thing to add to that. I would like, when we go to the service level review, to have a TNR, like to see how much a TNR program would cost, just so we can have a better discussion at service level.
Yeah. Councillor Hutchinson, do you have something else to add?
Yeah, I would like to see if we could get some financials for the service level review as well. Just, I think it's, if we're going to be giving more money or money out, we kind of need to know what kind of,
Like ask them for their budget?
just so we have some background if that's acceptable.
Is that something feasible, Mr. Kraus? Okay. Counselor Fraser, thank you.
And I guess just adding to that, maybe if we could get some of the long-term numbers from some of the communities that have done it. I guess Black Falls, I know it's expensive up front. I know SPCA and Edmonton and Sherwood Park both do it. So just, you know, what the startup cost is, what the year-to-year cost is, how, and what that has done for the number of cats in shelter. Just so we can have kind of a long-range idea of what's going to happen.
Okay, seeing that there's no other questions, I think we'll vote on the motion on the table. All in favor of Counselor Alt's motion? Yes, we certainly can.
Just to receive the Aurora delegation as information for now.
Okay, all in favor of the motion on the table, and that's carried. Thank you very much. Seeing we have no old business, I'm moving on to new business. We have an RFD for Bowers parking lot agreement. And I don't see Mr. Schwader here. So is there someone presenting it from?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I will do that. So as council is aware from the RFD, so historically, the town has paid $2,000 annually for us to be able to advertise for RVs and tourists to come and park in the Bauer parking lot or the brick parking lot. That contract is up for renewal. In discussion with the owner, they would like to see that be raised from $2,000 per year to $4,000 per year.
Counselor Hutchinson?
Was there any information as to why it doubled from last year to this year that they shared with you?
I did not speak directly with them from my discussions with Mr. Schwader. The rationale was an increase in taxes.
Is this the only business in Rocky Mountain House that's receiving this contract?
That's correct.
Do we have any more questions or comments? So Counselor Ault.
I was just curious, have we done any research on other locations in town that would work as well?
Your worship,
think-
not to date, unless, you know, council can instruct us to do that. Historically, that parking lot was kind of the prime lot because it's at the top of Main Street.
Mhm.
So for tourists to park there and be able to go down Main Street. I mean, we could advertise it for the lot, the recreation center parking lot. But then that's a little bit further removed from Main Street, not a great distance.
So that's everything. So my thing is that in the last few years, the parking lot that we've been paying for has changed with the addition of Rocky Mountain Mud, which is wonderful, but it has taken away the size of the parking lot that is allowed for customers to park at because they have of the way they have to have their exit and entrance and line up and all that with designations. And I think that it's onerous on us to pay double the fee when actually the parking lot got smaller. And the other thing is we do have just a block away, you know, the rec center, the swimming pool, the high school, the tennis courts, there's lots of parking there. As well as some of the activities that are happening on Main Street, you know, where we're utilizing that parking are outside of office hours. So it frees up parking in other adjacent commercial areas. So I actually don't even think that we should renew this because taxpayers are paying for a parking lot that they could easily have advertised like the arena and that for free. Counselor Hutchinson, did you have something to add?
Yeah, just curious on the expense of the signage and if we had to remove those signs and put new ones up or just modify them, if that would be, I didn't see it in here.
So your worship, we haven't priced that out, but I don't think it'd be substantial. I mean, at minimum, we would just remove them. But if we want to re-sign for parking opportunities downtown, it wouldn't be a huge cost, I would say. 2,000 would be a guess.
Counselor Boniface?
I agree with mayor about just dropping the whole agreement and putting signage up to park in other areas. I drive by that area frequently in a day. And it's rarely, I see a lot of big campers in there. And I don't, for the majority of people, they seem to park in other areas, and you see a lot of Canadian Tire and those kind of areas. But even parked up the road there in front of Dave's place, you see a lot of them there. So I think under the circumstances, we can just say we thank you for the past agreement and we'll move on from it.
Counselor Phillips.
Yeah, $4,000 a month. I mean, that's $48,000 a year.
No, it's 4,000 a year.
Or $4,000 a year,
Yeah.
correction, sorry.
4,000 a month is a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I would like to look at alternatives. And especially because this is a number that they have thrown out to us without any negotiation back. I would like to look at alternatives, and perhaps there's a dollar amount less than 4,000 that would be acceptable as well. It just seems a lot to just double overnight.
So we'll go to Counselor Fraser now.
Well, and I agree. I think the doubling was a bit shocking. And I think we do have a lot of parking at the rec center. We have it at the community center. It might encourage people to enjoy the spray park because there's already parking down there. The other thing, if we really do feel like we need a parking lot to direct people to, is maybe we need to open it up to proposals from other businesses with parking lots. Just so it's fair.
Thank you, Counselor Caprero.
I agree with the majority. I think the doubling of the $2,000 seems to be a little excessive. I am curious to know if there is a different amount maybe that they might be open to, or just leaving it at the 2,000. I think it's probably handy, especially when we have Market on Main and that kind of thing going on. But I don't know, I agree. I just don't want to see in 2 years from now now it's 8,000, or, like just something that's completely ridiculous. So I think it's worth also looking into other options if that's possible. But yeah, I don't know about that.
So I'd like to make the resolution that I'm sorry, Counselor
Sorry.
Hutchinson, did you have something further to add?
Yeah, I was just some clarity on Market on Main. Where the people that are parking there are parking on their own. There's no connection with Market on Main or anything like that, is there? So it's anybody can park
Anywhere they want.
anywhere they want. It's not associated with Market on Main, correct?
So if there's no further comments, I'd like to make a motion that we do not enter into an agreement with Bowers Brand Source Home Furnishings for the use of the parking lot. And I'd like to call that to a vote. All in favor of that?
Sorry.
I'm going to make the motion number 2 on your sheet.
Okay, just to maybe have some discussion on that. Do we want administration to look into other alternatives like the rec center or a swimming pool or something like that?
All I'm saying is you can make
Okay,
that as a
yeah,
separate motion. All I'm saying is that we're not at this time, right? We're not going to enter into the motion, which it seems clear that's the direction, right? So would we like to vote on that motion now? All in favor?
Sorry.
It's number 2
Okay.
in your agenda. Be it resolved to not enter into an agreement with Bowers Brand Source Home Furnishings for the use of the parking lot. On page 3 of 3. All in favor? 3 to 4. Okay, that's not carried. So I'm sorry, I will do that. Those opposed? Okay,
So with that motion defeated, I would like to make a motion that we instruct admin to come up with viable alternatives for parking, whether it be the swimming pool or rec center, or maybe a different parking lot, just to see what we can come up with for alternatives.
so your motion is actually administrative inquiry?
Don't think so.
That would be a motion.
Okay, can you repeat your motion then?
I make a motion that instruct administration to look for viable alternatives for parking, whether it be swimming pool, arena, other parking lots, to see if we can come up with some type of viable alternative.
Okay, so I think we could have some discussion on this motion. Counselor All.
Would we be able to put a friendly amendment in there that it would be also to include negotiation with Bowers?
Yes, yes, of course, for sure.
And so it's going to come back to council as an RFP then? Is that, just to make that clear? Okay, is there,
Yeah.
Councillor Hutchinson, did you have something to add?
Well, just if the agreement is already past due, are we still utilizing that parking lot for free, or will we have to make an adjustment? Throwing more at you.
So your worship, I think administration would have a discussion with the owner on that. I mean, 'cause I think council wants to know is the 4,000 firm for part of their decision. Then we'll see what the response is from the owner of the parking lot. And if it's a yes, then we'll negotiate something out for the interim. And if it's a flat no, then we'll just block out the signage at this time.
Any further discussion points? So I think that we should not look for paying for another parking lot, that we have enough parking lot of our own. So I don't like the motion to look at other alternatives that we would pay or to negotiate back down. Like it was at $2,000 and it's reduced the size from what has been because of Rocky Mountain Mud that they obviously are getting income from in that parking lot that takes up space. And, you know, it's our fiduciary duty to do the best we can for community members. People could walk from the arena, those adjacent parking lots, wouldn't cost anything. And we're encouraging our citizens to walk, bike, or roll. Laura, what's our phrase? Walk, bike, and ride? Walk and roll. We're encouraging visitors and locals to walk and roll to Main Street. Do we want to have any more discussion about that before we vote on the motion?
Yeah, just my motion isn't saying we're spending a dime. It's just to look at alternatives. And maybe one of the alternatives would be free, one of the alternatives may not be, but if we have, you know, a few alternatives to look at, then we can decide what we're going to do at that point.
So, but you're also saying that you still want to go back and negotiate with Bowers Furniture for that.
That's correct. So that would be
Okay.
one option that
Okay.
admin would bring back to us.
Mayor, if I could just have Ms. Breeze read back the resolution to council
Thank
to
you.
make sure.
I have, be it resolved, the council instruct administration to look into other viable options for parking and to see if Bowers Brand Source is willing to negotiate.
Okay, so let's vote on that. All in favor? And all opposed? And that's carried. So moving forward in the agenda, we are down to RFD for budget 2023 engagement, 7.2.
Hello, Mayor.
Good
And
afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me. So I'm here, it's July, but we're talking about the 2023 budget because as you all know, that process gets underway. If Betty hasn't already started.
She has started. She started. She sent an email.
Absolutely. And so if you cast your minds back to 2018 and some provincial legislation that requires municipalities to have public participation, public engagement policies. So we have one. It has proved itself pretty good over the last few years. I have included it with your package. So it's the public participation policy 002/2018. So that's there for your information. And it really does support what I am proposing we do as to gather public input ahead of council's service level review, which will determine the direction of the budget following that. So we first did formal pre-budget engagement back in 2019, and so we've been refining our process ever since. I do have here in front of you as well, a draft public engagement, public feedback survey for budget. One thing you'll notice, it is a budget survey, but there's no dollar figures in that survey question, and that's by design. Because it's very easy for people to have a hard and fast number in their minds, what they should and shouldn't, but without all the information in terms of the services we provide, what we're mandated to provide under the MGA, what things council has said we should provide based on council's strategic plan. That comes with a lot of background information that, quite frankly, most residents who pick up the piece of paper to complete a survey won't have. And so that's why we use a sliding scale and more of a citizen satisfaction survey. So you're content with the services we're offered. And if not, what would you rather see? And would you rather pay a user fee for that service, or would you rather remove another service to compensate? So if you've read through the public survey, the draft, that's why there's no dollar figures in it, and it is by design. I have been fortunate to take some professional development over the last 4 years here with community-based social marketing. And so I really feel like my surveys get better every year, drawing on that evidence-based approach to gathering public input, but then also reporting back to the public on what we've heard. So that is really the second part of the proposal in front of you is, number one, we want to go out and ask people to fill out the survey, to complete it. If they're very, very wordy, we do have a dedicated email address. People can submit comments that way as well if the survey just isn't enough meat for them, right? And then what I'll do, what I propose I do is, once the survey closes, I figure we have it open for 3 to 4 weeks, compile that information. Generally, it's pretty obvious. People they may use a lot of different words, but they all mean the same thing. And so part of my job as communications coordinator is to look at the comments that come in and put a filter over the misspelling and the grammar and things, and see what the real intention of their comment is. And so that's how some of the survey is designed as well, with the sliding scales, just so you know the background there. So then I put it all together, and I tell council what we've heard from our residents and their thoughts on what services they're happy with, where they see room for improvement, what they think would be a great addition, or what they think perhaps they could personally use without. And then the other aspect is going back to the community, the residents themselves, and say, thanks for participating in the survey. Here's what we heard. And that's a really important feedback loop that you'll see organizations increasing when they're doing public engagement, because people want to know that they've been heard. So that's what I have in front of you. The public participation policy does talk about accessibility. And so given there are considerations for accessibility needs, I have it right here in front of me, but in terms of those who have access to devices and reliable internet, or even just the knowledge, they can also, of course, pick up a paper copy. Even in the years past, I've even taken a few over the phone and inputted them myself as I've done it. So we make it as easy as possible for anybody who wants to participate, that they have the option to do so. And so my recommendation in front of you, excuse me, is to accept it as presented, and then I'll roll ahead. But I am happy to hear your questions, and then of course change the date or even the scope of what I've proposed.
Okay, I really like your survey. I've read through it. On number 18, I don't know what, it doesn't have a page number. It's the second page from the last, number 18. I was wondering if you could rearrange it alphabetically. And then I know you're supposed to move it around. I find that if you do it number 1 to 10, number 1, the most important, number 10, the least important, is a little bit user-friendly for myself. I'm not trying to drag and drop, and especially if you're doing it on random different electronic devices.
Okay, so I know this Word document that's been pulled into, it won't behave like this on screen.
Okay.
Because this is, I've just copied it from our survey software. It will be drag and drop to rearrange. It's actually set to mix, rotate.
Yeah.
every person who sees it will see this list in a different order. And
So-
that's to prevent those people going in, just doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right?
Okay, my recommendation is to
Yeah.
do it alphabetical.
And then
So-
everybody seems. to
And
see
then
it out.
everybody puts 1 to 10 down. And you think that too many people go number one, the first one on the list alphabetically is the most important?
Yes, and that's why the it sets to, I can't remember the name, mix up, basically, so everybody sees the list in a different order. So then it
And so
catches,
will they number it then, or will they?
drag and drop into the
Okay,
highest
so can we
position.
have them number it rather than dragging and dropping it?
I'll look into it. Yep.
Thank
I
you.
can't say for sure, but check about numbers.
I do a lot of surveys, like the chamber one actually today, yesterday, the chamber one for 13 reasons did label it 1 to 13 was one of their things.
There's some great marketing.
So I'll do Counselor Hutchinson and then Counselor Fraser.
I just had a couple of questions. We've used this before?
Not this exact
Okay.
one. It's updated.
Okay.
I just had, I don't know if it's a concern or a thought, but could there be some type of summary at the top to say something about, not about the budget process, but I just, when I first looked at it and it said, what program or service would improve? Or would you rather pay more? I'm having a feeling there may be people saying, well, we pay enough taxes already. Why do we have to cut stuff? Or so if kind of some kind of a, yeah, or something that says our budget works like this. I don't know, kind of get where I'm going with it? I don't know how to explain it though.
So ameliorate the preamble.
There you go.
Right.
Okay, so that sounds like that was answered. Counselor Fraser.
I just had one
Oh,
more
sorry,
thing.
you had a follow-up?
Just, does this go on social media afterwards, after the results come in, utility bill, things like that, or is not normal practice?
So the typical practice would be, we'd say, hey, everybody, there's a budget survey out there, goes newsletter, newspaper, radio, social media. We'll use that electronic highway sign on the highway, the digital messaging boards in our rec centers. And then when it comes back to council, it will come to council first. But a copy of the report, the compilation of all of the results would also get emailed to those who requested it. And even those who didn't request it, because it's part of the council agenda, it is a public document. And so people can access it that as well. And we'll do that feedback loop on our website from the public input budget page. Website, the survey's open, the survey's closed. Stay tuned for results, and then here are the results.
Thank
you. Just to go back to the ameliorate the preamble, is that something you'd like me to bring back to council, or is that something administration can simply revise?
I think I'd be comfortable with admin revising and taking it from there.
Thank you.
Counselor Fraser.
I like that it is divided into different departments. But I was wondering if we could, right before the very end, because you said, do you have any further comments with respect to the 2023 budget, which is kind of a catch-all, but I'm wondering right before that one, if we ask, are there any services, programs, processes that you feel would be beneficial to Rocky that weren't covered? Because I know sometimes I go to the end, I think like the edible fruit would be a good example. Where does the edible fruit program go in all the departments? Oh, but I think it's a really good idea and I'd like to tell them, but it's not really with respect to budget. So I'm wondering if we can kind of do a more open-ended one right before any comments, just to kind of give them a bit of a writing prompt there, because sometimes they've got some really good ideas come out of those.
And the question is, something that hasn't been covered in. the
Yeah,
above
are there
questions.
services, programs and processes, what I wrote, but whatever you think, just. I think when people go through a survey and they're like, oh, I should have added that back there. Or where does that go? And then it doesn't get on the paper and we don't see it, so.
Right, thank you.
That's on number 19, is that right?
Yeah, somewhere between 18 and 19, 18 and a half.
Could you, do you want it?
18 For my purposes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I have one more thing before I go to Counselor Phillips. When you, on the very last page, it says I live on Sunchild First Nation Reserve.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if I would put reserve. I would just put, I live at Sunchild First Nation, like it's a community, right? Like, I don't know how that's,
Or I am a member of.
well,
Sunchild
no,
First
because you
Nation.
could be a member of it and live in town, but you could live, I live at Sunchild First Nation, or I don't know, but I'm just
Yeah, thank you,
thinking
Mayor.
that something's not 100% there with how they call it themselves.
I will strive
Investigate.
to, yes, find the very right language for that.
Sorry, when she said 19, then I saw my highlighting. Thank you very much. Counselor Phillips.
Just sticking on the demographics question. So I know we had this last year, but I just can't remember exactly. When the questions come back, do we have which question was asked by a town resident? Was a question asked by a county resident or Village of Caroline? Is there a way of separating that out so we know which comments are coming from town residents and which ones are coming from non-town residents?
We can, it wouldn't necessarily be part of the package I would put together for council explicitly. But if it's something council is very interested in, then I can do generally, those who are self-selecting as a Clearwater County resident have these questions. And things, so I can
Yeah,
absolutely.
I would just be interested to see what the town residents have to say and then have what the non-town residents have to say and see if they line up.
I can make note to include that analysis in my report back to council.
I'd like to see that analysis as well. It'd be interesting to see, different resident groups, what their opinion is of things. And I did not see a budget for this. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is part of my portfolio.
Oh, okay.
And my budget, we have a subscription to the software used to run surveys. We use it right now for the website feedback. We share, FCSS uses it as well. So it's a very small annual fee to have access to that. And it's part of my normal job description.
Okay.
To conduct
Okay, I'm just,
these types of.
I didn't see if we had to add budget to this. So I think we're ready for a motion if no one has anything further to say. Counselor Phillips.
If there's no further discussion, I'd like to make a motion that council approve the pre-budget public engagement plan for budget 2023 as outlined above.
All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council.
My agenda page. So service level review, an RFD for service level review. Agenda item 7.3.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mr. Kraus.
Yeah, thank you, your worship. So following up after Ms. Button's presentation on budget survey, administration is now looking for council to establish the service level review, which is historically been 2.5 days to go through the service levels. That's actually when the survey would also be talked about or presented to council. So we are looking for specific dates to conduct that and actually looking at council's schedule. There's only one weekend in October that's actually available, considering other conferences and so forth. And so we're trying to verify that weekend is suitable for council. And then we are also looking for direction of where council wants to hold the service level. Pre-COVID, those meetings were taken to another municipality to basically lock away for 2.5 days for town business and to meet with the council of the hosting community. COVID, we actually held them locally, Pine Hills Golf Course. And then, of course, this year we just did it in council chambers.
So just to move things forward, I'll make the first motion if there's, or would we like to discuss the dates, but I'm ready to make the motion that it's October 14th and 16th be resolved that council establish October 14th to 16th for the service level meeting and that it be held. And then just, that's all I want to say, period, just to confirm that date. Does that sound fair before we discuss everything else? Okay, so that's my motion without a location attached. All in favor of that motion?
So just before we vote on that, are we going to establish a location?
We can do that on a separate motion with a completely separate. I just want to establish the date first, and then we can open it up to discussion. Yes?
Okay.
Okay, then we're not, I just want to simplify it and do that way. Okay? So all in favor of the dates? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Counselor Fraser.
I just wanted to say that if we're looking at a location, just as I've done the ones in town, I've done the ones away. The ones away offer, I think, a better chance to really get into the meat. There's not the distraction of all the other things going on as they are in town. The other thing I liked, when we went to Canmore the one year, we were looking at an organics program and they were able to show us what they did and how they rolled things out. And so I don't know if there's a community that is working on an initiative that we might be interested in knowing more about, because meeting with their council, even in Hinton, it was great to meet with another council and just have dinner with them and have a discussion with them about their issues and how they've overcome some issues. And so I think it's, if it's possible, if it works for everybody's timetable, I think taking it out of Rocky is immensely useful.
Thank you very much, Counselor Hutchinson.
I agree, going elsewhere. I like the idea of meeting with another municipality, but I would like to see maybe locations that have some type of team building opportunities, something that will take us from sitting around tables to the casual events, whatever to build, just basically for team building. I know like the Gold Center, you're kind of keeping it local. We'll do the obstacle course hanging from a rope. There was another one, the crossings at Ghost River around Cochrane. Whether or not that's something that council feels would be more beneficial as opposed to meeting with municipality and having that discussion, but that's kind of the direction that my thoughts went to.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go to Counselor Phillips now.
So going to Counselor Fraser's comments, I have been to both of these out of the municipality and in the municipality. And there's much better discussion when we're not in town, because you don't have the distractions of family work, because we all have jobs outside of council. And those distract from doing the service level retreat. It takes away from where your mind's being focused. When we're actually away focusing on nothing but service level, we have much better conversation, much better discussion, and I think we have a much better outcome. Going back to Counselor Hutchinson's comments, I like both. I like a team building exercise, but I also find great value in meeting with another council, because they have, challenges and successes that we may not know about, but when we sit around and talk with them, we can understand what those challenges and successes are. So I do see benefit for both.
Counselor Boniface.
Like that's the question of Counselor Alt, have you been out of town on these? Because you and I have similar business logistics to arrange.
Yeah, I have. And if I would give my preference, it would be to be out of town again. It just, when you're in town, you're in these chambers or wherever you're at, your phone's always with you. You are available to answer questions. We go away, the only one I had been on was in Canmore. The other two were in town. And it's not that there wasn't a lot of free time, but we did get out to meet up with their town council the one night. I think it's well worth it to try and reach out and connect with other people.
So like, I would prefer to stay home for this. We're away a lot. Like we're gone an awful lot. Some members of council aren't going to all the other things that I'm attending. But the reason that we only have one weekend is because there's only one weekend we're kind of home or that we're available. And it makes it, you know, a little bit, I sleep a lot better in my own bed than I do, you know, in Regina or other locations. So, and it would be a cost savings measure. I would like to see us do it one more time here and then have a little bit more time to think of which community we would partner with. I'm not like, I really like Black Falls. When we went to Munis, were you at Munis 101? No, Shane and I were at Munis 101. They had the grand opening of their rec center, which includes their library. You know, like we're looking at a new town, like new things for our town. I would like to see us just do it one more time here, and then we can really plan for what community that would tick all the boxes. I mean, Black Falls is kind of silly to go away and they're like 45 minutes. So, but maybe that would be just a day that we could go and meet with other councils and do tours. When we were in Didsbury at the what was it, the caucus one?
Alberta municipalities.
The leadership caucus. We had an opportunity afterwards that Didsbury gave us a tour of their film set and talked about like their economic development. And so there's always opportunities when you're going to all the other events to sort of match up, but it would be nice if we had a more, you know, focused one before we're going to spend money on hotels and things like that and go away with, you know, we all have other responsibilities, but we all have other responsibilities. So that's all I wanted to say. Councillor Hutchinson.
I'm going to respectfully disagree. I get spending the money and whatnot, but I think that meeting as a group this year for service level review, we missed out on some opportunities to get in a room away from everything and have a connection with each other, you know, staff included. And I prefer the idea of being outside away. And I understand that, you know, I mean, I've got 3 weekends that are booked within a month there as well, but I think this is a really important one, and I think it should be done without, I would like to see a place with no phones or TVs too. That would be even better.
Councillor Fraser.
Again, I obviously the service level review can be done in any room. But I think the real value in having it away is actually after the meeting social. You're not going home to your family, and I know that can be tough, especially when we've got lots else going on. But when we went out for dinner together, we met, you know, down in the lobby together and had a lot of kind of that extra discussion and that extra bonding time. I think that was really important. I know the first year we did this, we went to Hinton. I was surprised how much we were able to kind of become a cohesive unit over that weekend.
Councillor Phillips.
And I can respect what you're saying, Mayor. I prefer sleeping in my own bed. Don't get me wrong. I would prefer not sleeping in a hotel. However, there is a very large benefit to not doing this in the same setting that we do everything else in. Speaking for myself, there's just more ideas, more openness, more things come out, and meeting with the other councils is a huge benefit, just to listen to what they have to say and what they've gone through. I like my own bed, but there's times where it makes more sense to do this in a different setting.
Okay, I wasn't necessarily specifically about my own
No,
bed that you mentioned 4 times. It wasn't like my own bed. I think it's a cost for the whole community because it's not just the people in this room. It's other support staff that have to be away. It's meals and travel and hotels and everything like that. And like no one so far has mentioned a community aside from, of course, Councillor Hutchinson that they would like to partner with. I'm perfectly fine to do it at Pine Hills Golf Course, you know, and see if that would work for this time. And of course, I really like connecting with communities that are more local to us. So if we could do it like at Black Falls, or we could do partnership with Sylvan Lake or Olds. I mean, they have a lot of really things, or Drayton Valley. I know they're really close to us, but they're close to us. So they have a lot of similar characteristics to our community and would have the same sort of budgeting and population ideas and things like that. So, I mean, those are ideas. If we want to go, those are the ones that I would like to put out there. Unless you have something specific. I would just wanted to ask Mr. Kroos if you had already some ideas for which community you think we would like to, you know, show us or partner with.
No, your worship, we were leaving that in the realm of council.
Okay.
But, I mean, it's typically a municipality that has some common ground with us, like Hinton and Canmore. It was more on the tourism. As Councillor Fraser also mentioned, we had a presentation to them on their organics program, which is an initiative. So it could be any municipality that council feels has some connection to us. I mean, obviously Edmonton would not, you know, type of thing, or Red Deer, but there's several municipalities in Alberta that are facing the same issues as us.
Thank you, Mr. Kroos. Councillor Alt,
I would
and
just
then Councillor Fraser.
curious, admin, do we need to come up with a date today, or could we mull it over and on the August 2nd meeting? Could we pick a date then? Would that give admin enough time to?
Yeah, so your worship, so August 2nd would be fine with admin. I wouldn't want us to go too much further past that because it's, I mean, so logistics of booking venue and hotels. But it can definitely wait till August 2nd.
So it's not the date, you mean the location? You just voted on the date, right?
The location.
Yeah, just sorry, just wanted to clarify what you meant. Councillor Fraser.
I know there was a list that was compiled. I can't remember when it was compiled, but it was 15 or 18 or 13 communities that matched us in population size and number of houses and
That's the
industries.
Fortis list, right?
Well, it's similar to the, but I was just
No,
saying,
yeah.
if that's the same list.
Yeah, that's the list that we, municipalities that we always compare ourselves to for tax rate and so forth. So that's why we had Fortis do that comparison because
So I'm wondering if maybe we wanted to look.
Okay, do you want to hear the list?
Well, I know them. I'm just saying if that would give us some direction. Because I think there's a few there that I think would be interesting on a number of levels. So
Which one do you like, Councillor Fraser?
I think Drumheller would be interesting. I know that their council's been pretty forward thinking and they've done a lot of downtown revitalization and tourism. But again, the capture neuter release program in Black Falls, if we wanted to focus on that, I guess it just depends on what our priorities are and what programs we want to look at. But I think Drumheller would be a good one.
So it's not on the Fortis list,
Is it
but
not on the Fortis
No, it's
list? I
not.
was certain Drumheller was in there. No.
Devon did spare yours, your Ds. Maybe it's just not on the.
It might
Fortis
be a
list.
different list I'm thinking of. 'Cause
Yeah,
I know we
it
put
could
it
be.
together for comparisons at some point.
Councillor Boniface? If-
I agree with Councillor Alt that if we could table this until our first meeting in August, then all of us would have some time to research communities of who we may be interested in doing this with and get a little better idea of what's going on at that time in our own lives and bring it back to the table at that time and just move on from this.
Could we ask administration to look at Black Falls and Drumheller and Olds? Just because Olds is on the list and they have like the college and they have lots of really neat things there. And I like Black Falls when we went there and Drumheller, just to give us some options in case we need to really book hotels and food and things like that, that we could have a start on that. Does Councillor Fraser, did you, your light is on?
Oh, so
No, I just thought you were gonna add something to the list. Does anybody else? Tina, what were your areas?
I was, again, I appreciate the idea of meeting with other municipalities without a doubt. But I just feel that council as a whole would benefit more from someplace where it was focused more on after hours team building as a group, as opposed to, I mean,
it's, like I said, it's great to know and see what other municipalities are doing, but
What were your options again?
I just looked at the Gold Center, which is towards Nord or past Nordegg.
Right,
And the other one was the crossings at Ghost River, which is around Cochrane. Just because they do have, again, whether booking is even an option this late in the game, but something along that line that offers different activities, formal, informal, things like that to aid in bonding as a group.
so would it be okay if administration sort of like feels out those five-ish options? Just to see, like, is it feasible? Because we already have our date set, right? Now we have to find location. And can we also just throw in the cost at Pine Hills, just for a cost comparison? Because we'll need a budget. Does everyone feel comfortable with that? Or we can just use the costs from last year? Does that sound fair?
Yeah, so your worship, just for clarification, so there is budget in this, in the 2022 budget. I think I'm missing one. Gold Center, crossings at Ghost River, Black Falls, Olds,
Drumheller,
Drumhellen,
right? Counselor Fraser? Yeah.
and Pine Hills. So administration would look at the options of venues in these locations and cost.
Well, I'm just wondering if you want to reach out to Black Falls, Drumheller and Olds, the three municipalities, to see if they would be willing, if they have time available to do something with this. If they're not available that weekend to do whatever. And then, yeah, maybe like availability of can we book it? Like, there's no point in deciding on something and then there's no availability, right? Or is that too broad of a reach?
Well, it's what council wishes. We will do.
Okay.
If council wants us to investigate all six, then we will. I know we did look at Gold Center in the past. I think accommodations was and venue was an issue with that one, but we can relook at it again.
Yeah, because COE, I think it's bunk beds. Counselor Boniface?
There's also, I don't know if it's still in the works or not, but there was an executive retreat in Bearberry. It's very, very large and been there with several oil companies in the past. And I mean, it can hold up to 200 people. It's quite an extensive thing. And they do team building exercises there. They have all of that. They have zip lines and all kinds of stuff for that purpose. So
Do you want to look at that instead of Goldeye, maybe? Perhaps would that be, I don't want to look at 50 different options.
I'd be willing to make a phone call, see if it's available and bring it back to the next council meeting.
I think Mr. Kraus is
Or do I-
totally
Yeah, we'll.
able, but
Sure.
Counselor Hutchinson, would you mind taking Goldeye off the list and swapping it for
Uh,
something, or should we swap something else?
It was just an idea of an area or like the venue type
Is
thing
that
I
a
was thinking
yes?
about. Well, I wanted to ask, so are we now taking it off the table that we'll be looking for ideas?
We're all gonna go home and look, but I'm also
We're
asking
still-
administration to give us some ideas. If we come back and we have nothing, right? Then at least we can choose something that day.
Okay, that's what I
Right-
wanted
right?
clarification on.
Does that sound, is that,
It's a huge list for administration
Okay.
to investigate. I mean, I'll look to Miss Breeze because I'll be delegating it to her.
do you
Let's
want us to narrow the scope of what we're looking at? What about just venue and availability to start with? Does that sound reasonable for the Counselor Alt?
Why don't we just, everybody come up with two options that they would like to see discussed and come back on August 2nd, and we can at that meeting go over the merits of each and pick a location and then let admin look into it from there.
Because I think we need to know availability and make the decision on August 2nd. So if you have a good idea, is that,
Admin's not gonna look into it the day of their meeting, so if we give them direction on the 2nd, they should be able to work with that.
just Mr. Phillips or Counselor Phillips, I'll just, Miss Breeze, would we have enough time, do you think, to book something if we didn't decide until the 2nd, like on the 2nd, are we gonna have to?
Yeah, your worship, I think what would probably work well is, so council has option, the first pick on August 2nd, then an alternate, and then maybe a third alternate, and then administration can just go with it.
And a comment I had when it came to meeting with the other councils, we've generally had very good uptake whenever we've gone to other municipalities. And even when we had another, I can't remember what council came here, but we met with them and yeah, and we had supper with them and it was a very good interaction. So
Okay,
generally, there's always good uptake with the other councils.
so could we just do an administrative inquiry on the 3 communities where there would be councils and just check if that day is available to them? Okay, because that's gonna be like one email, right? So I'd like to make the resolution that we meet, table this until the August 4th, is that the right day? August 2nd meeting, and then make the decision then. All in favor? And that's,
I'm sorry, I'm just a little confused about this. So we want admin to research the ideas we've given him.
no,
That's off the table now.
yes,
Okay. So we want each of us to go back, do our own investigation where we'd like to go, bring back 3 ideas, suggestions to be presented and decision to be made at the next council meeting. Is that
yes,
what you're saying? Okay.
that's what I understand. And we are gonna just reach out to the 3 communities on the list to see if they're available, because that would help with our decision on the 2nd.
But you just said when I said.
All
admin-
she's gonna do is,
Admin's not doing anything as of yet. Is that a yes or a no?
admin is just only gonna see if Olds, Black Falls, and Drumheller are available on that weekend. If we so choose those, then we know if they're available. That's it, one email.
Then why are we going back and waiting until the 2nd? I think we have to do either one or another. Either we give it to admin to do it, with those 3 and end that with those 3, or we take it back to our own homes and decide on 3 each and look at it at our next council meeting.
Just want a little information for the day we decide. Any other questions? So we're gonna
So-
table it till the 2nd, and on the 2nd, we're all gonna come back. I'd just like to know if we can meet with other communities when we come back.
So just for clarification, I'm in, so that would be the only 3 municipalities that would be on the table for August 2nd.
Unless somebody else wants to ask now, we have to know ahead of time, right? Before we make the decision. Is that not correct?
Just to see if their council is available to meet.
Yeah,
So, but we may not know of another municipality until August 2nd. So just,
I'm confused. I'm not sure what we're doing for the August 2nd meeting, if we're coming back with alternatives or if we're going to use the alternatives we've given Mr. Kraus. I'm just not clear.
we're gonna come back on August 2nd with each individual person's alternatives. And then we're gonna decide, but I need a little information if those communities are available to make the decision. Right? Is there something, some other community? Like, we have to book all this stuff, so we have to sort of narrow down our decisions now, right? So we have the date figured out, now we have to figure out the place.
Yes, but if we've given Mr. Kraus 3 communities already,
He's not
And-
gonna do anything
and he's
except
not
for,
going to do anything with that until October or August 2nd, then I'm just not clear what we're doing. That's all.
Counselor Boniface. Oh, Counselor Fraser.
I think if we're all bringing ideas, just to make sure that all the ideas are looked at, you know, kind of with the same amount of information. I think if we're bringing ideas, we should decide kind of our first, second, third, and then we can send admin to check those locations and book those locations. Would that make?
So all I'm
Yeah.
saying is, if you try to book something, it's a year ahead of time, and this is October, and it's 1st of August, so would be 2 weeks before we can decide, right? I'm just trying to
Okay, I
move
guess,
I'm just trying to help with the
yeah,
booking process by shortening the weeks by 3 weeks, by putting some options here, but it doesn't matter to me. Does that make sense?
I think if we need to start booking tomorrow, then we need to decide today. And if we're going to decide on the second, then we should wait till the second to give all of the, because we could get a fantastic idea on the second, and it's not any of those three that they've done the work to look up
Okay,
and contact.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. So we're gonna table this, make the resolution to table this to August 2nd. Everybody's, period, that's the motion. Does everybody agree on that motion? All in favor? Do you have
Yeah.
a comment?
No, just, could we add to your motion that will table it with council coming back with top three decisions?
Yes,
If
you
you could
can,
respectfully
if
add
you'd like
that.
to do that. Okay, so I'd like to table this motion, table this agenda topic, and we'll come back on the second and we'll bring 3 items and discuss it then. All in favor? And that's carried. So now it's 2:45 and we're going to take a 10-minute recess.
Thank you.
So the town of Bentley is having a parade August 4th to 7th. And there's a community pancake breakfast and then the parade in the afternoon. And they're asking any council members to attend at the office 11:30 a.m. With the parade to follow at 1 o'clock. So it'd be like a luncheon. And then we could go in the parade or we could just watch the parade. Is anybody interested in attending on Thursday, August the 4th? No, okay. So then I think I'll make the motion to accept the letter. I'm sorry, Councillor Hutchinson.
I just wanted to maybe add to service level review. I don't know if I have in the past already or not, about some type of parade protocol, and maybe at the service level, we pick communities that are important or have a reason or connection or some idea to look at attending and how we attend them and what's the intention of attending. So I just wanted to add that.
So are you making a motion or are you just doing an administrative ask?
Just to add it to, excuse me, service level review, or do I need to make a motion? Okay, then I would like to make the motion that at service level review, we discuss policy or protocol for parade attendance and areas that we would attend.
So just before we vote on that, why are we doing it at service level? Because it's a PR event. Doesn't cost nothing.
I agree that it doesn't cost anything, but I think that for it may be economic development reasons that we choose to go to certain places. I just think that we should have a discussion and how we go about doing it. Maybe we decide we want to build a float for next year to take, or something more to promote our town in with tourism and whatnot.
Okay. All in favor of the motion on the table? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So I'd like to make the motion to accept the invitation from Bentley for information. All in favor? And that's carried. So moving forward, small grant request 8.2. The Rocky Flying Club held their pancake breakfast, and actually they've already had it. And if you've read the administrative, like Mr. Krause's report, they discussed in there as well how many people came and everything like that. So do we just not have, I thought that this was already accepted by administration. Is this because it doesn't fit in the criterion?
No, your worship. So by policy, even the small grants are approved by council.
Okay,
The timing is just generally it's before the event, but it was just the timing of the emails and correspondence back and forth to get the information required by policy.
okay. Thank you. So when you look at our grant funding, there's still lots of money in our budget, and we're only at the halfway point of the year. So I feel comfortable giving $500 to their event. It was like to support search and rescue. There was 42 or 41. I count, my notes say 42, but people from all across Canada. I attended it. Daryl Lougheed attended it. I sat first thing in the morning at 8 o'clock. There was like people from Edmonton coming to visit our community. And then the last people to leave, well, not the last people to leave, but the furthest away was people from Fort St. John, BC. So, I mean, that's really great for our community. So I think it was a good, and lots of people, their planes were there, but they were gone somewhere like to town or something like that. So that was great to see too. Some people did just land, eat breakfast and go. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve the $500 small grant for the Flying Club. Is any discussion on that? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So moving forward, 8.4. Sorry. 8.3, letter from a state executive re property tax penalties. Mr. Krause, did you want to talk about that one?
Thank you, your worship. So council has received a letter asking for the penalties that would be imposed on July 31st on a certain property be waived because the request is the property is in transition, I guess, through an executor. So under the Municipal Government Council does have that authority under section 347. But I guess an advisement to council is there's also a legal test to that it has to be fair and equitable. So it'd be something that kind of council approved would be willing to do for everyone in the same situation.
Counselor Fraser.
I'm okay with this because somebody has passed and the purpose of the penalties is to encourage people to pay on time. And I feel that the current owner is not going to pay on time. Like there's no enticement there. And I understand that the complications with being an executor and probate can be a pain. I'm not sure if we need to write it into our tax bylaw. That, you know, there be a certain amount of leeway. It can't be forever, I don't think, but I can understand that as someone who gets handed the executorship to see the penalties stack up when they have no ability to pay those penalties. I feel that is a little unfair, and this doesn't stem from not paying because they don't want to pay, but because the person who entered into the property tax agreement is no longer. So I'm okay with this particular one, even if we need to maybe look at adding something to the tax bylaw so it's fair and equitable for everybody.
So I'm along the lines of caution on this, because when you have a will, naming the executor, you have immediate access to the money. And you could sell the property, you could do whatever you want. When his letter says here, he's like going to probate, that means he doesn't have a properly upstanding will, and it's an unusual circumstance. And again, if I had my friends around the table, I would encourage everyone in the universe to have an updated, current, less than 5 years old will, because then you can avoid things like this. But I could be wrong about how that works. Counselor Phillips.
So when someone's getting probate on a as being executor and dealing with someone's residence, that means that they're inquiring with the courts to get the legal right to sell that property. Hasn't got anything to do with money. It's just getting the legal right to sell that property. So probate, whether the word was used improperly in this letter or not, that's what probate talks about. But typically, yes, and when you're the executor of someone's estate, you have access to that estate's funds to deal with the estate, whether that's for property taxes or utilities or whatever else you have to pay. My question to Mr. Kraus would be, is if we do go down this road, does it open up other scenarios of that's my concern. If you do this once, does it open up other scenarios not related to this type of topic that could potentially come back?
Yes, it can, because that is the legal test for section 347, fair and equitable to all your citizens or property owners in town. So where is that line of waiving tax penalties? So.
Counselor Alt.
So if I read this right, the penalty is $150, correct? Now, does that go up monthly, or if it's paid
Period.
within the next year, then it's $150? It just after the due date's 3909. Before is 3759.
So the first penalty is August 1st, and then the next one is December 31st. Or
I think it's October 31st and then January 1st. Or October 1.
And it would be the same amount? Would it be like the $150 both times? Is there a calculation?
I would have to look up in the tax bylaw. Sorry, I didn't bring that with me, but we have penalties, and I think they're slightly different each time.
the percentage is different. It increases.
Well, I would like to make the motion that for this.
Sorry,
I can speak to this on a personal note.
Yes,
I'm the executor of my wife, my mother's estate right now.
yeah,
I'm waiting on probate. I'm sure.
yeah. Well. I should have talked. I don't think we need to hear about probate. I think is that Mr. Crowe's? Yeah,
Okay.
okay. Thank you very much for that, but I don't think it's a matter of why they're asking at this point. I think for the small amount, we don't want to set the precedent of opening us up to having this discussion every time. And so my motion is to deny waiving the late fees for this situation. All in favor? And and all opposed? 2 opposed, and so it's carried. Thank you very much. Okay, so 9.1 correspondence for information. Community grant update report. Oh, thank you so much. I keep doing that every time. Letter for town resident, notice of use of public land. So this is the back alley that's not a back alley. Is that right?
That's correct, your worship. So earlier this year, complaint or an issue came to the town, people driving on municipal reserve parkland to access their rear property. Our understanding is they've been doing it for years. So administration and following policy, of course, we don't allow people to drive on parkland and stuff like that. So they were notified that that has to cease because it's not something we would allow throughout town for every house that backed onto MR land. So we have received this letter asking council to adjust policy or change to allow them to access their rear yards through municipal reserve or parkland. Administration, there is options for there. I mean, if a lane is required there, the homeowners can petition for a lane to be put in. And that would be through probably a local improvement program where the cost would go back onto the property owners because they're the only ones benefiting it. So there is options. Or if council is looking at allowing access through parkland or MR land for people for the rear yard, we would ask that council at least direct administration to bring back reports so council can see the whole magnitude through town of this.
Thank you, Councillor Auld.
Mr. Gross, were they using it for parking trailers? Like, were they in and out of there? Or is it just-
My understanding is, yes, some RV trailers parked back there, vehicles. I guess, and to let council know, if someone has a specific project they're doing in the rear yard and they have to go through parkland or MR land, we do allow that, but they just sign an agreement with us. It's like a 1-page agreement that's if anything has to be restored back to the original condition. So it's not like the person can't access their rear yard if it's something that they're building, doing landscaping or building or something like that. But it's the continuous use. And in this case, what brought it to our attention, vehicles were driving on the trail system to get up in there, which is obviously somewhat of a safety concern for pedestrians. But plus some of the units are probably weighted too much for the construction of the trail. Like it's designed to carry a 1/2-ton truck for our maintenance staff, but not much more than that.
And so they already received a letter, like this person already received a letter before these rocks were, like this letter says here that we're given is April 29th, 2022.
Yes, so a letter went out in April 29th to the residents advising them, we've become aware of the situation and we'd be putting up gates or rocks to prevent that in the future. And we gave them to August 1st to allow them time to make different arrangements if they had an RV trailer in the back or any other type of equipment.
And so your recommendation to move forward on this agenda item is to just not change the policy that we currently have?
Well, it's entirely up to council. So under current policy, we don't allow people to drive on MR land. So that's the direction administration is taking now. There are other options on the table. We can advise the residents if they want a lane, then to follow the Municipal Government Act and have all the people in the neighborhood sign a petition for a local improvement for a lane. Then administration will obtain costing for the lane and advise them it would cost X amount of dollars per lane, and that we would do it through a local improvement program, which it would go onto their taxes.
Is that like a levy?
Yeah, kind of go onto their taxes for probably 15, 20 years. That would be at the discretion of council. So it'd probably increase their property taxes $200 a year or so for a lane. Or council can ask us to bring back a report if we allowed access through MR land to rear yards, what the magnitude of that would be throughout town. And probably some conditions that would have to go with that.
Okay, so is there any discussion you'd like to have? Counselor Alt and then Counselor Bonfils?
There's a point in there where they're allowed to, you said if there's a one-page contract, would they be able to use that after this point? Like, would they be able to use that contract to move their trailer in and out of there? Or is it after after August 1st, it's done?
That contract is basically for when a resident is doing something major in their backyard, like landscaping or building a garage that's access through the front or something like that, where they need to get, heavy equipment in.
Counselor Bonfils?
I'm quite familiar with this area and we have used the form before when we've done work in this spot. Know quite a few people there from working for them. The large wooden post with a lock worked for many years. And again, I'm not in that area a lot, but most of the people that I've worked for had a small camper or something, but they parked it in their backyard. They never parked it out on the green space. So I'd like to see us continue along that line and still give them some access there within reason. And if they choose not to abide, we can lay out the ground rules. No, don't park in the green space. If you're accessing their backyard, that's one thing. Don't be giving your key out to everybody. I'd like to see us try to work with the citizens here because a lot of them have lived in those houses for quite a few years and they're used to that access. If you take it away completely, they're not going to be happy campers.
Yep. Counselor Phillips?
My only concern is we have more than just this one spot in town. There's other, like, I know Counselor Hutchinson, you back onto the walking path as well. So what you apply to one spot applies to the rest of the town. And in some cases, it may make sense. And in some cases, it may cause safety issues for sure. So I would be hesitant to say yes to this without having more information for sure on how that would affect things.
No other comments? So I think that we don't need to do a study to tell people to stay off MR land, that it's been like that since the development has came through. And it's unfortunate that they've been used to accessing their backyard and parking their stuff, but they've got notice to move their things and they can always purchase a home. There's lots of homes available for purchase or make other arrangements. And I think that we should just politely decline the request to make any changes and not to do a study of MR land. And I'll do Counselor Fraser and Counselor Hutchinson, even though I just asked if anybody had anything else to say.
Well, you reminded me of something.
I agree. Although I think giving them the pathway to put a petition together and to look at what a local improvement tax, if they wish to do that, I think that's part of the MGA and they are, like, we can point them in that direction and they may feel that that's worth it to them to go and do that legwork, but it also makes sure that we don't kind of make it open season on all homes that back onto MR land.
Counselor Hutchinson?
I just want to say I agree with you with what Mayor Bates had said, but wondering if there might be any logic in posting that on, well, probably our utility bill would be a good one, saying that you can't access your backyard without a permit or without this form.
That was included in the April utility. Around the same time this letter went out, there was a notice.
It's already been
about-
done.
Yeah.
Okay, so now if there's no further comments, I'd like to make a motion that we politely decline moving forward to make any changes to our policy. And they have the option of doing whatever they would like to proceed, but it's. So let me rephrase my motion because that got wordy. I'd like to politely decline their request. All in favor? And all opposed. And so that is carried. Thank you very much. Correspondence for information. Is there any items on this list that anybody would like to discuss, or can we pass them all for information? Counselor Fraser.
I had a thought while I was reading through the community grant update.
Mhm.
And I know that we normally have the large grant with 2 intakes. I think March and October. September. And so I know that we do have an intake coming up for the large grant, but I'm looking at just because of COVID and the way large groups were operating and not knowing what they can do, there is a fair amount left in the large grant program. And after the success of the grant program, the summer Kickstart program, I'm wondering if it would make sense to shift some of the large, not all of it, but some of the large grants to the smaller grants for those kind of smaller events that happen over the summer, because there's only one more intake left for the large grant, and that'll be coming up at September. So that was just my thought. I'm not sure if where that goes, but that was when I was looking at what was left. And I know we just approved another one. So we'll be at 2,000 of 2,500 for the small grants. So that was my thought on that.
Did anybody want to have discussion on that item? Counselor Phillips?
I think if we get more grant applications after the intake for the large grant program, I mean, we can always, I think we can look at it then. If there's no more intakes, then I guess it really doesn't matter.
Right. Okay, there's no other discussion. I think unless you wanted to make a motion, Counselor Fraser.
No, it was just for discussion, food for thought.
Okay, perfect. So could I have a motion to accept the correspondence for information for 9.1 to 9.6? Counselor Alt.
Make the motion, we accept 9.1, 9.6 for information.
Thank you very much. So moving forward on the agenda, we're at 10. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yes. All in favor? Thank you, Counselor Caprero. That's what happens when I'm trying to do as many things as possible before Counselor Phillips needs to go. So 10.1, the CAO report, Mr. Kraus.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. So just doing highlights through the reports. I think some of the main ones met with Clearwater County CAO and actually some of their staff, and we actually worked out the final details of the waste asset agreement. So that is finalized. So hopefully we have that's all wrapped up by the end of the month, by the summer. So it was a huge project. So hopefully that is done. So it's a very cooperative meeting and it went very well. Met with staff and urban systems, the engineer for 54th Street. So as council is probably aware, we're having some flooding issues there. To kind of put it in the big picture. So there was a drainage ditch that ran east to west that actually captured the water from the north side of the tracks and that ran it down through that development area to Trappers Creek. So when we built the road, the stormwater system is obviously designed for when that area is future developed. In that future development plan, the water from the north side of the tracks actually gets diverted in a different direction. But that won't happen until that development occurs. So we are working at, so obviously in a heavy rainfall, that design just cannot handle the magnitude of water that comes down that drainage ditch. So we are working on a temporary, the temporary solution until future development occurs. Mr. LaFrance and I actually, I think, got it pretty much finalized this morning with two options. Our biggest hurdle was to make sure Alberta Environment was on board for diverting water. We do have that approval to do that. So now we're just looking at the two options. So we should have that resolved, hopefully by fall. I'm looking at Mr. LaFrance. He's nodding. So that's good. Staff met to talk about Highway 11 through town because Alberta Transportation is doing an operational study. We have a meeting that is going to be set up in the near future with their engineering. Most of our concerns were just the intersections and the queuing for turning, looking for right-hand lane turns, longer left-hand queues, signaling of lights and pedestrian crossings. So we'll be bringing forward our concerns to Alberta Transportation and see what they do with them there. On the legislative portion, Ms. Breeze, a lot of time to FOIP requests, over 80 hours on the initial one, but that is now complete. We're just waiting for the applicant to respond to a letter that went out this morning because half the fees are now, the remainder of the fees are now due. So when those fees are paid, then it's released. There was a second FOIP request, smaller, and that was on just for personal information. So and that one is complete also. Communications has been busy as normal. I reviewed the first public education video from communications yesterday on taxes. And I think that'll be rolled out next week or this week. Of course, as Ms. Button has said earlier, she is the survey on the website is out to the public right now as per council's strategic plan. And the fruit map is now online. So we're hitting our targets on communication as requested by council. For the airport, so basically on the maintenance there, our airport manager does sweep the runway now. That's kind of a new practice, but we are seeing the asphalt deteriorating a little bit and he is picking up rocks by sweeping. So we'll have to talk to council in the future if sweeping is actually a service level we want to do or continue on that. In an effort to gain some more revenue at the airport, Mr. Lindsay has put vending machines in the terminal building. Actually, it works out quite well. He's finding them used. So, I mean, it's not a huge revenue source, but it is a small revenue source. The airside line painting is complete. That was a tough project for Mr. Lindsay because it's all weather dependent and it's been raining. And then we've also included stats of on the airport usage. If council has any questions, be happy to answer them.
Seeing no questions, I'd like to make motion to accept CAO report for information. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Moving forward to 10.2, we have department reports. So the first one is recreation and community services.
Good afternoon, Council, and Madam Mayor. Yeah, just a couple of highlights from my report. From my office, a lot of time, doing capital budget or capital project management. Just to highlight, we do have a couple of our projects that are now complete. The Quick Lane Header Trench project is complete. I've included a couple of pictures just for your reference, what it looked like before and what it looks like now with the new PVC piping. The renovations to the Bunch referee room and hallway access between the Bunch and the Quick Lane arenas is complete. So if anybody's out and about, if you're at the recreation center this week, you will notice it is overrun with wrestlers. We've got over 107 athletes that are taking part in the wrestling camp there and being housed in various locations throughout the facility. So that's a very, very positive event. My understanding is that the Trappers event that was held over the July long there was very successful. So it's great to see those types of events happening in the facility. Alberta Volleyball in next week. And then the ice plant gets turned on July 21st with ice being ready for the Rams hockey camp starting on August the 8th. So, and then we're in the process of trying to sell some of that other ice that's available and making use for public seating and shitty and just making sure that the ice it's there. We'll try to sell it while it's being used. Just through FCSS, just one of the highlights. Kudos to Andrea and Rebecca for their efforts in opening up the response or emergency reception center for the fire that was out in the county. So that they did an excellent job of getting that up and running, and we're open until about 10 o'clock that night to get everybody registered. In the guest services end of things, just to highlight, the summer camps started this week and the registrations have been through the roof type thing. They're really, really busy, almost to the point where they said, well, we could have used another student to help manage some of the numbers, but it's great to see that program has got a great response. Yeah, and then from the pool side of things, just to note that, the school bookings in June were really high. We doubled up some of the schools just to accommodate them. And they're making plans for shutdown for our annual maintenance, which will happen August 29th to September the 20th. So for 3 weeks, we'll be shut down for maintenance there. And then they provided just a look at their daily admissions there for June. We're back up over the pre-COVID numbers, so people are coming back. The pool is very, very busy. So that's sort of in a nutshell is my report, unless somebody has any questions or.
I just wanted to relay a comment from the Trappers. So I attended a breakfast, the trade fair, and then the supper, and I had a lot of positive comments about how wonderful our facilities were, how great, like it was people from all over Alberta and some people even from outside of Alberta, and they just gave us lots of compliments about how nice our facility was, and I wanted to pass that on. I know there was quite a few staff that were helping out throughout the weekend, and it was really appreciated, and I wanted to pass that on.
Yep, thank you. I'll share that with our staff.
Well, thank you very much for your report. So next up is corporate services.
Good afternoon, your worship and council. Just we're working away. We're bringing quarterly statements. Next council meeting, we've started budgeting, so it's in the works. And as CAO Kraus mentioned, we have got the closing entries for the regional waste, so we're just trying to finalize those so that we can in turn finalize our audited, our financial statements and get them done and to council, hopefully by the last meeting in August. It just, there's still some moving pieces, but not just carrying on. Any questions?
I see no questions, so thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for your report. Next on the docket is planning and community development.
Good afternoon, your worship and council.
Good
How's
afternoon.
everybody this afternoon? I'm gonna just kind of highlight some of the things in the report. I'm not gonna read the whole report out. Under the Clean Energy Improvement Program, I believe save the date has been sent out to council just so we can review the non-residential portion of the program in September. Under planning and community development, we've had a really busy season so far this year. We're up to 106 real property requests, which is kind of reflected, I think, in the real estate that we're seeing moving in town, which is really nice. We also have the the Creekside Fire Home has been demolished, which is really great. We had to follow several legislative processes to get that down, and I thank all of the Creekside residents for their patience on that. We've also uploaded a bunch of GIS photos that should be available on our GIS mapping hopefully soon. We are running into some issues with our Diamond program communicating with the CSV files that we need to provide to the contractor that does the GIS mapping. So we're working through some of those things to correct some of like, for example, on plan numbers, it's removing the 0. And so it comes up with an incorrect plan number. So we're trying to correct that and trying to work with all of the various agencies to try and resolve that. We did go through a safety codes audit here recently. That's complete. We have some action that has to come out of that, but we did overall very well on that. So that was really positive. Economic development and tourism, the Canada Day event, I think it started off really well, but unfortunately the weather had an impact on that, and that's kind of out of our control. But I think they had some really fantastic entertainment lined up, and I think they had a really good response to people attending the event until it rained. Market on Main, that's still going for the 2022 summer season. I think they've had the response is highly tied to the weather, but I think they're doing very well. Reviewing and preparing information for the new business development initiatives that will be presented to council again in September at the same time as the non-residential seat program. We're also preparing a report on the VIC viability for council. Health and safety, 3-year core safety audit. It will be commencing August 22nd, 2022, and there'll be further information on that coming in the reports. Protective services, they've also been very busy. They had 126 files for the month of June. 90 of those were municipal calls and 20 were provincial. We did provide some statistics for you, which I thought, were kind of interesting. One of the things that I just want to point out is under development and building, we've already surpassed the previous 2 years, and we're only about halfway through the year. So
Lots of small projects. Yes, I saw like the number versus the total amount, like the total amount's about a house and a half.
yeah, it's, what we're seeing, like the total for 2022 so far is just over 5 million. So 5,500,000 or 5,600,000 almost. We anticipate that to go up like more than double. So because we still have a couple of big projects that are that need to submit for their building permit, and that will bring those numbers up significantly. We've also seen, some improvements. For example, there was the, Extra Foods, for example, has changed over to no frills. you know, we've got some other new development that will be coming, and, you know, I encourage everybody to look at the website, because we do post all of the development permits online on the website, so people have information at their fingertips to be able to see what's going on. We also post all of the development permits down in the lobby here at the front doors. And if somebody called, we'd also be willing to share that public information with anyone who called. So. Are
Thank you
there
very
any
much.
questions? You're welcome.
So,
Did we have any questions?
Your
Mr.
worship,
Kraus?
so Ms. Hartling actually mentioned 3 items that we're bringing to a upcoming meeting, and that meeting was scheduled for September 19th. The mayor and deputy mayor have declined that meeting, so I am asking council, do you want us to try to find an alternate date for that meeting?
Yes, because that's the only day we're not gone that week. Like, is there a way we could do it before? Like, you still want all those items looked at, right?
Yes, I think those items are actually kind of imperative going into the service level review too, because they also have budget implications to them.
Can we do it like that's the 19th? Can we do it that Friday?
You'll be at the Friday before.
I don't have it.
16th? Oh, okay, because the Friday of that week is Alberta Municipalities Conference.
What-
So,
What about the 12th, like the week before?
Do you want to just send an email out to
okay,
everyone? Because I
so,
don't have a
but,
calendar.
Yeah, so we can send out alternate dates to council, but just to verify that you want the date changed. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other questions or comments? Okay, perfect. So then moving forward, we're going to engineering and operations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Good afternoon, your worship and council.
Good afternoon.
So engineering and operations has been really busy with the weather. When it rains a lot, we have a lot to clean up. Our wastewater system also takes on a significant increase in the amount of flow. So our operators have been dealing a lot with our lift stations. And then when it's nice, the water demand is high because everyone's watering. And we've seen a very high usage of the spray park. So that's a good thing as well. So we're working on our line painting, and that's mostly completed. Again, that was delayed somewhat to weather. So again, that's true for a lot of our projects. A lot of our projects are going ahead or they're on schedule or being set. I don't know if council has any questions. I'm happy to answer them.
Councillor Bonifaz. Oh, Councillor Hutchinson. Sorry.
No questions. I just really like your caption on the one saying, yes, that pond is what you think. And yes, we are hiring.
You know what? I'm really, really thankful for the staff that work in engineering and operations. It's not always glamorous. It's not always easy, but they do everything required and they do it really well. And it's, you know, a lot of things that nobody thinks about, all the cleanup and whatnot. And it is what it is. And yes, we are hiring. So a huge thank you to the entire crew, because I'd like to say I do a lot of things, but I wasn't volunteering to go out on that boat.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bonifaz.
I see that you're replacing quite a few sidewalks around the town now. When do you anticipating doing the paving and that for those projects?
So Collins Concrete is currently, there's still a few outstanding, because locates, and we've added a few to the program based on the prices available, and including addressing some drainage concerns. And so asphalt is currently scheduled for once those are complete, but it is at the schedule of the asphalt contractor. So before year's end, but I don't want to give a date because there's been a lot of rain and everybody's dates have been pushed back. And so I don't have a date I'm comfortable giving at this
They will
point.
be done this year.
Yes, that is the intent.
Thank you.
Did we have any other questions for engineering and operations? I just wanted to say that I see how dirty the river is, and I still think that our drinking water is lovely. And that's saying a lot, because normally you can see rocks in our river, and right now it's just a brown flowing river. So great job on keeping our water nice.
I will definitely pass that on to operators. I know they spend a lot of time with the changing turbidity levels and having to address their levels with the changes in the river cause them a lot of concern and a lot of work on their end in order to maintain their quality water. And they consistently meet their targets and exceed them according to Alberta Environment. So again, we're quite proud of our water.
Yeah, it's a great job. We have beautiful water in our community, so thank you. I don't see any other questions or comments, so I'm looking for a motion to accept for information the department reports. Counselor Phillips?
I'll make that motion to accept 10.2, the department reports.
Thank you very much. All in favor? And that's carried. Moving forward to the action list, 11.1. Mr. Kraus?
Thank you, your worship. Just if council has any questions, I can go down the pickleball court. That agreement was actually signed and delivered to their lawyer today. So I mean, we are done on our part. And if council has any questions on anything else, I'd be glad to answer.
Nice. I'm seeing none. No, if there's no further questions, I'm looking for a motion to accept for information the action list. Counselor Fraser?
I will move to accept the action list as presented.
Thank you very much. All in favor? And that's carried. Do we have any administrative inquiries today? Counselor Phillips?
I do have one. This would be for Ms. Breeze. The seconder motion that Innisfail had not provided us with, and that's going to Penhold next. Do we know when that's going to the Penhold meeting?
Only the mayor responded to that inquiry and he said he will add it to the next agenda.
Do you know what date that is? Chance? If you don't,
I
that's fine.
believe it's, they hold evening meetings every second, so I believe it's at the very beginning of August.
Thank you very much. Are there any other administrative inquiries today? Nope. So moving forward, any notices of motion today? Seeing none, moving forward. So we will recess for 5 minutes in order that we can go into closed session to discuss intergovernmental relations. Thank you very much.
Testing the microphone.
We're live. Thank you very much. So we've come out of closed session and we have a motion. Tina Hutchinson, Counselor Hutchinson.
I'll make the motion that we schedule an ICC meeting for as soon as possible
To discuss airport.
to discuss airport.
Thank you very much. All in favor? And that's carried. And if there's no further motions or discussion, I am going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much. Meeting adjourned.